Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Jack Bigadoo. Welcome to The Truth is Barrel Proof. Today, you guys probably will be like, what are we talking about? Jack usually only bring whiskey and other brands on. What is he doing this time? This time, I'm bringing a spirit that is near and dear to me, but usually I believe they never get, quote unquote, the credit that it deserves. I bring in one of the houses of that spirit that impressed me at first sip, and it's not common. I feel like it deserves a little bit of highlight on it. So I wanted to bring the owner here for us to actually have a conversation. Cognac seemed to be a very interesting spirit as a whole. A lot of folks will say, oh, I like cognac. But most of the time, they're not actually diving in and understanding the making, the origin, and every other things that actually have to do with the history behind one of the oldest spirit on here. For all of you who don't know who I'm talking about, this guest actually is very, very popular in the cognac scene. He's done it all from being in the field to actually managing on the top of the Bureau of Cognac. His name is Alexandre Gabriel. He's the owner and master blender of Maison Ferrand, West Indies rum distillery in Barbados. From most of the brand you have seen prolific from Planteray, Ferrand, what you got, Mathilde, liqueur. You probably use something that have Alexandre have done if you're behind the bar at a certain time. But here we're here to learn more about him. The first time I heard about Alexandre actually was in 2001, where I was watching a documentary about this guy that decided to put his what do we call a sailor on a river. And if you know the river of Seine, it cuts through a whole the whole Paris. So if you're on the Eiffel Tower, if you are the bridge of lovers, you're gonna see the Seine go through. And this man decide I'm gonna actually put a floating sailor of rum and cognac in this. And I say, who is this insane person that want to do this? So I've learned a little more about Alexandre about 4 years ago. So it's a pleasure and an honor to actually have this man to tell us about the story. Hopefully, we get an opportunity to try some of the spirits, and you guys can understand what is happening, not only in cognac, but a little bit of education around the spirit or what I've let Alexandre have actually accomplished. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Alexandre Gabriel to the show. Welcome, my friend.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Jack. Listening to all of this, you put a lot of pressure on me, but I'll try to live up to it.
No, I'm sure you can. I truly believe that you are somebody who love to defy odds, and for me, it's very important. In this industry, a lot of people are can walk afraid sometime. And when I saw that story back in 2021, I'm like, who is this person? Like Sen first is like, very kind of smallish and is probably the main attraction of France. Sometime I feel I just came back from Paris and I went down to the Bridge of Lovers. And I'm like, you see La Seine almost everywhere, but then I'm like, that's a genius idea. Doesn't matter if you buy the Eiffel Tower or you on the other side of Paris, you have to see this floating sailor. But I've heard whiskey on a boat. I've heard other things on a boat, but you have cognac and rum on a barge and walk around. I'm like, that's a genius idea. So that's how I heard about you the first time, which is odd, but that's how I heard about you. And I thought this was actually one of the coolest thing I've ever heard. But for all the people that do not know you or don't know who Alexandre is, who is Alexandre Gabriel?
Well, man, that's introspective. Well, I'm hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you here, Jack. I love your passion for spirits, and there's nothing real without passion in the line of fine cognac or fine rum, because it's a gastronomy. You know, it's about a shared pleasure. So I am the master blender, the owner of Maison Ferrand. We're a family operation. We are a farm, I like to say, because there's no great spirit if there's no great farming. So, for example, the way we make our cognac, we grow our own grapes. You are flipping through pictures where you see us in the vineyards. So we control quality from grape to bottle. So, this is what I do. I'm trained as a master blender. There's about 23 or 24 of us in cognac. You cannot be a true master blender before that because there's no real science to it. It's really like being a great chef. You need to practice, 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 practice. So nobody in cognac will take you seriously as a master blender if you don't have 20 years of tasting 60 barrels a day. And that's what happened to me, like all the other guys, 400 years and on before. So that's what I do. I'm also, so I take care of Ferrand Cognac, own, we consider distillery, even though I'm legally the owner. We always say we tend distillery in cognac. You know why? Because think about it. First time cognac is double distilled in 1630. I actually wrote a book, The History of Grand Champagne of Cognac. And so, to understand
I
all
need
that.
to go check it out. Yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to understand, all the ins and out and what is before us. So yes, there's been lines and lines of different people that were quite genius and passed on the baton for all these generation, perfecting their craft. And the beauty about cognac, it's a spirit that controls the quality of its grapes because the grape is from the land we live on. As you know, it's an AOC, appellation d'origine contrôlée, where
Hmm.
every grape is around us. And so Cognac is a small community of 70,000 people, and everybody in Cognac is related to the trade one way or the other. If
Hmm.
you're not a distiller, if you're not a bottler, if you're making glass, if you're not making glass, maybe you're a boulanger, you're
Hmm.
a baker, but you're baking for the Cognac guys. And so it's a small micro system. This is where I live. This is what I work. I also live, as you know, a week every month in the Caribbeans making Planteray Rum. So I am passionate about these pleasures that are triggered by incredible libation, incredible spirits. And cognac is often considered the king of the spirits. Of course, you hear that more in cognac than other places. We have deep faith into that spirits, but it is true historically. I know because I've written books about this that historically was the first spirit to really be distilled purely for pleasure, not for functional medicine, or was to really have a beautiful experience. And that's why Victor Hugo said it was the liquor of gods. And so it was really early on something very, very special. So it is true, for 36 years at the helm of Maison Ferrand, we are a smaller family distillery. We control our quality from grape to bottle. And also, we are in the heart of the cognac district, Grand Champagne. I know it's a little confusing, but you know the French. Sometimes we make it complicated, right? So get this, Jack. It's called Grand Champagne. I had to write a book to get it right. It's called Grand Champagne.
Yep.
Cognac. Think of cognac as a region like a target. Where you play dots.
Yep.
And so there's almost circles, and these circles would be different quality of ground, the soil. And as you know, the soil and the climate with people define the taste, right? So that's what we call terroir. So the bullseye of the region is called Grand Champagne. And
Hmm.
you speak, I mean, French is your first language. Grand means big,
Big,
And
yeah,
champagne means bubbly if you don't know better, right?
correct.
So you think it's big bubbly. It's actually the second smallest region of the cognac region. So I'm
Hmm.
just trying to confuse you, John. And then it has nothing to do with the bubbly. So you got to write a book to get this right. Why
To
would you
get
call it that way?
to really help.
Yeah. And so the reason is really in Old French, chalk, Grand Champagne means chalk, pure chalk soil. So Grand Champagne means refers to the quality of the land. Pure chalk, Grand Champagne, great
Hmm.
chalk. And
Hmm.
actually, there's a bigger region called Petit Champagne. Get that as well. So you think it's actually bigger in size, but it means small chalk. In our specialty, we are located in the heart of the Cognac Grand Champagne region, which is where you have some of the highest quality
Quality.
and that's why we are all the cognac Ferrand are premier cru de cognac, and as you know, premier
And
cru is a French.
I was coming to that question because in every for people that don't know, right? Let's say somebody never even explored cognac, you've been the expert. If you had to tell someone that the simple definition, not only of what cognac is in a simple way. Let's say I pour a glass to someone, you say, "What is this?" And it's cognac. What is cognac, right? Because I feel like the consumption, at least on the American market of cognac, is more. Um, most people consume cognac really culturally, not because cognac is a spirit that they know enough about to dive in. But culturally, we've seen cognac on the US market after World War II,
You're
where
right.
historically, it became more in the black culture. A lot of people would love cognac. Buster Rhymes say pass the yak, pass the Courvoisier. And Nas sing about I don't drink anything unless I'm having some yak. A lot of people, it became a cultural drink more than actually a technical thing. Wine always technical. I want this type of wine. I want that type of wine. But cognac have never been that till recently, where more people that are cognac lovers like, no, we need to know more about it. So for somebody today that come and say, I don't know anything about cognac, what you as a master blender and a maker will tell this person this liquid is.
that's that's interesting. Well, I would first see if that person has knowledge in other spirits. So for example, if somebody's
I'm a
knowledgeable about,
bourbon lover. I only drink bourbon. I don't drink cognac. Yeah, right? So
okay,
I
cool. So if
hear that a lot.
somebody's, that's great. And so I'd say, bourbon and all the spirits are capturing the essence of a wine made with a different material. So whiskey, it's a grain, a wine made with grain. So a beer. And so you make this wine and you create specific flavors when you make this wine. Rum is a wine made with cane. We call it wash. And then Calvados, you may have heard, is a
Yeah.
wine made with apple. So now cognac is considered very noble because it's actually a wine, with grapes. And so it is not made with grain, like bourbon would be, as you know, made with corn, right? In our case, our raw material that we use is grapes. So first we have to make wine. So a great cognac distiller, first of all, is a wine vintner. So we gather the grapes, and that's why cognac producers always complaining about the weather because it's either too dry or too humid, or because we hope that God gives you the best weather possible to make it, and every year He gives us a different type of weather. So first we are trying, and we like to say that with a delicious cognac, we try to capture the beautiful essence of wine, of a beautiful wine from the southwest of France. And so think about this: if you're a bourbon lover, and bourbon is delicious. There's no problem with this. But you can actually go into cognac and you already know cognac somewhere because you know that first you distill. And what do you do when you distill? You warm this liquid that you've created, either your beer, if it's made with grain, or your wine, if it's made with grape for cognac, and you warm it. And when you heat it, the beautiful aromas evaporates. And we capture this aroma and we make a drink with it. So we try to capture the soul of beautiful wine. That's cognac. And when it's out of the still, and when we distill it, it's clear. And so when it's clear, we're going to put it into a barrel. And with time, it's going to
and
pick
and,
up.
and it's the most and one of the things, not to cut you there, but I refer to people saying that's where every spirit at that clear level connects, because you call it ushkaba, water of life. French people call it eau de vie, water of life. So I tell people they're more connected than you think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the end, and you're right, once you put it in a barrel, of course, everybody's got a different way to handle a barrel because, for example, the cognac guys, we have to train for 20 years because before we're considered serious. And so about it, we use barrels of different size. I mean, there's a real art. In fact, in cognac, we don't say aging. We don't say, you don't age a cognac, you elevate a cognac, you elevate and
You're lifting it
you're
up.
you're lifting it up. We use the same word, by the way, to raise a child, right? Élever un enfant.
Yeah.
And so we age a specific way, and each region's got a different way, and that's how we make cognac. And so, really, if you're a bourbon drinker or if you're a Scotch drinker, you're 2/3 there, and you're gonna be enjoying cognac, because you're gonna understand what it's about. But yes, you might actually be. I like what you said, Jack, is that I love cognac. I like every spirits. Both has a cultural aspect. And I think you're absolutely right. There's a great bind during the Second World War, even First World War, with a lot of African American coming and falling in love with the spirits and owning it. And we're very proud of this. I think that's part of the heritage of cognac. But also behind the scene, there's a whole bunch of guys, ladies and gentlemen, who are actually working hard to make these delicious spirit. And the law to make cognac is 23 pages long, Jack. And if you cheat with that law, you go to jail. You can go to jail for 5 months. So nobody is interested. So it's very, very strict the way we make this beautiful spirit. And it has a long story. The British aristocracy was so in love with it, they had it aged by the Thames, so they could watch it over and capture it when it was ready, and some sailed it at sea, so in the barrel would be polished. That's why I had that crazy idea to buy a big, big batch where I have 1,500 barrels of cognac and rum aging with the movement of the River Seine in the middle of Paris. It's actually revisiting these old techniques of making cognac. So that's why we do with Maison Ferrand, with Ferrand
And
Cognac, we're exploring this.
also, you also brought up something in Maison Ferrand before we get into the different expression of Ferrand. I want you to talk about something that I found impressive. In one of the release that you have, it tells the story of how uh, cognac makers used to get their barrels, where they came from. And I want people to hear about, I'm sure it's part of your book too. So probably people should check out your book to know if you claim to be a cognac lover, probably you should get Alexandre book to actually get more information. But for me, interesting fact and historical fact makes me happy, right? Especially when it comes to spirit. But I know you one of the release that you've had, you're referring to how cognac makers used to get their barrels and the type of barrel they were getting to age that. I only had like 1/10, like your PR agency didn't even have enough to actually send me. And when they sent me that 2 years ago, I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. So can you talk a little bit about that? It's like the barrel, we know grapes, we know they're distilled and they're put, through the élevage, we actually get that spirit. But the choice of barrels also matter, right? A lot of people, if you ask the average cognac drinker, what barrel do you think they use to age the cognac? Most people don't know. They'll be like French oak. Like that's what most people think of. Can you talk a little bit more about the type?
I'm going to give everybody a little quiz here, real quick. Cognac is a little village. The village itself is 20,000, and the region is 70,000 people. Do you know how many people built barrels? How many companies, small and big, in the cognac region? It's wrong, but you know how many? How companies making barrels? One of the tools of cognac. How many companies you thought we do that?
One.
What about 100?
What?
100 companies.
No.
100. Don't worry, Jack. Everything's wrong because what happens? You know the
So
French. How
what
many
you say? There's
cheeses?
a
How many
hundred
cheeses?
cooperage. There's 100
100. Actually, a
cooperage in
little more
cognac.
than that. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. In the
Wow.
region, and each. I got news for you. Each one. has a different specificity, and each one thinks they do it better than the other guy, and they do in
Cool.
their own way. You know the French, Jack. You know
I,
we have
I was
what
about to
three
say, go
thousand
figure. That's
cheeses.
literally the first thing that came out. I say, go figure. We talking about French guys here.
Yeah, exactly right. Think about it. We got 3,000 cheeses, so why not a
Mhm.
hundred Coopers? And the beauty of it, if you but imagine if you're a master blender, this is great because you get to choose like the perfect. We don't only char the barrels, we toast them long and short, and we have different sizes of barrels. So for example, so it would take that's why it takes 20 years to get it right. But so we love, of course, French oak, but also European oaks. And actually, it's legal if you want to use a little bit of American oak. I'm trying to go back to the old techniques and reopen the regulation so we can use. I still have friends who are coopers. They remember how to make barrels of acacia, mulberry, chestnuts, and the
Mhm.
super luxury cognacs used to be aged in that. And the law we're discussing cognac is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. So we're talking about can we actually reintroduce this whole heritage? So why I'm telling you this is that if you're a master blender, all these are tools for you to polish this delicious spirits that pours out of your still. And also, cognac, by law, we can only use very small pot stills. So, for example, Scotch whiskey has about produces quantity wise about 5 times more than cognac because Scotch, but cognac it's about the same amount of sales, but it's just some Scotch whiskey are quite volumetric, right? And Scott, you have about 450 to 500 apparatus to distill in Scotland. Do you know how many there are in cognac?
No.
3,000.
Wow.
Because they are very small little stills where we control every drop. And when that's out of that still, because remember, we're working with a noble material, which is grapes. And then when it's out of that still, this precious liquid is put into a barrel. But you care about what type of barrel. And cognac, and we don't like to have too much wood flavor in cognac, so we transfer, first in a new barrel and then in a bit of an older barrel, not to put so we have the breathing through the cask. And also, so remember, it's called élevage. So think about you raising your own child. Remember you raising your daughter. You do the homework. You do the this, you do the that. We do the same. And that's why every barrel that we own, I taste personally every 3 months. I know their first name of
Hmm.
every barrel. And
Hmm.
so that's called élevage. And I may decide, you know what, this one needs to be transferred in a toast number two, at a barrel. So that's
Hmm.
part of the aging of cognac we call élevage. And when we think it's ready, we start doing the blend. And the blend is progressive. And we mature the blend in a vat. The best producers do that for a minimum of 6 months. So these barrels get married together. It's a notion we call fondu.
Hmm.
Fondu, and you say fondu means integration, right?
Yeah.
Blending of the
I mean, melted in. Yeah. Like a melting
melted
pot.
in. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, the good translation. So that's what we do, and that's my job. Yeah, that's what I do every day. And then once a year, the most beautiful time in cognac is harvesting. You go in the field and you've worked so hard all the year, and then you can rip the fruit. That are going to be making wine. It's a white grapes. We don't want the tannins of the skins and because cognac is you need a very elegant perfumey wine, and we run it through the still. So that's the job of cognac. So that bourbon drinker actually might be interested. Bourbon drinkers, I've noticed, like the intensity of flavors, and we
Hmm.
love that in cognac.
Hmm.
And that's why you see now in cognac we call la nouvelle vague.
Hmm.
It's a smaller producers.
The new wave. Yeah.
Voilà, the new way. Where you have people like Maison Ferrand who have exactly the philosophy you're describing, Jack, about going back to the techniques in terms of explaining it. Everybody's got a good level of techniques, but what about going even deeper? So, and what I love when I see bourbon drinkers, they're going to say, but I like my bourbon a little stronger, not just 40% alcohol. So, for example, in the Nouvelle Vague, in these new producers that are actually very ancient, they're going back to the old recipes where cognac was a little stronger. You told me when we were chatting together, remember about the 10 generations Ferrand?
Correct.
It's actually 46%,
And trust
etc.
me, trust me. I For the longest time, I have my qualms with cognac because I'm a Nyack fan because of the high proof that coming from bourbon that is very high proof. Armagnac was an easy transaction. But then from that transition into Armagnac, days where you want to relax. Maybe you're having a cigar outside or you're having dessert. Armagnac is too much proof. 56, 55% ABV is too much. So cognac does it, right, for me. But then you end up enjoying cognac, realizing that even at 42, 43, there's still so much flavor in cognac. So I remind folks all the time, what would you say to the folks? And we're gonna get to the expressions of Ferrand, but what would you say to the folks that, because one thing I realize about your brand specifically is you're not focused on what I call commercialization. Right? You're not going to say, "Oh, we have, we have VS, VSOP, XO, extra age, and that's it." Right? Which a lot of cognac on the U.S. market, those are the four things, and that's it. Right? One of the things that piqued my interest with Ferran, I say, you know, in French, like, il est bizarre. He's not doing what other people are doing. He's not doing what other people's are doing. He's literally is doing what you call it. He have the renegade. He have the old Pierre Ferrand. Then when you go through it, he call it amber. He call it this, but you are not doing what most people on the market are doing. And even your latest expression, double cask. I'm like, what is Alexandre doing? Why is he not following the normal path of regular people? So that has been the burning question in my mind since I met Ferrand. I said the first day I meet Alexandre, I'm gonna ask him, why are you different?
Well, I think I was born to do this, and Ferrand has been around, believe it or not, in one way or the other since 1630. First, winemakers and distillers. And when I met it, I'm not from the Ferrand family. It was a dormant little company, and there was this matriarch we called Mademoiselle, and she was like a godmother to me, and she passed on a lot to me, and I actually created 10 generation in her honor to honorate the 10 generations that she celebrated before her. And what I've discovered is so much heritage about techniques that I want to celebrate. It's not just at 40%. And there's a little secret I want to share with you, Jack. Every spirit, and it's a little technical, but bear with me. Every spirit has what we call a weight. A weight is the quantity of flavor delivered, right? So when somebody said this, if a professional guy said this is a light spirit, it means that it aches to a vodka, mostly water, alcohol, right? And there's nothing wrong with a vodka, by the way, and in fact, by law, cognac has to be a minimum of 200 grams per hectoliter. Forget about, but that's the minimum weight. If you make it lower and you're found out, you can go to jail. So this is very important because the cognac board, rightly so, wants you to deliver so
I'm
much
putting
flavor.
you on the big screen because this is important to hear, right? This is
So
important for people to know.
sorry, I mean, I'm
You
actually
are,
in France. It's
and I don't think people understand the reason why you know so much, but you held a position before that people don't know, that you actually have to be a regulator of cognac, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because that's why you know so much. You're not just a master blender or an owner. You literally helped with the regulation of cognac. So I think most people don't know that about, that's not the first thing on your resume is always Planteray, Ferrand. When you type Alexandre, Alexandre Gabriel today is always Planteray, Ferrand. But you work for the bureau. You were the rules holder.
Well, we are the bureau is it's a region that's self-regulated in terms of by the government about our AOC, and I'm part of a board, right? And let me tell you, I love that board because put a bunch of French guys who are so passionate about what they do in cognac. Cognac, sometimes it feels like high school on steroid, but we're serious about it because we are there about advancing the cause. So the idea is for me, I believe that cognac having think about it, 100 years of know-how. And if you trouble yourself into researching it, then you can make even more beautiful liquids. And that's the mission I have at Maison Ferrand, is researching that. So, and so you're right, 10 generations. What did I do? Instead of being a cognac that's just 200 grams of minimum flavor elements, I love the intensity of flavor, Jack. So our cognac are like usually minimum of 500 grams of delivery. Consumers don't need to know this, but you know that if you buy one of our cognac, you're gonna have this beautiful delivery of flavors, this panache of flavors. That's why I wake up in the morning for. How do you do this? Longer fermentation, but also you distill, you don't filter your wine. So you extract more flavors from the wine. It's very full bodied and it's very smooth. However, you need to be extra careful because since you don't filter out the elements, you concentrate them, the quality of your wine has to be top notch. This is why we have to own our own vineyards, and so most people don't do, they buy from different vineyard owners, which is great too. But in our case, we have no other options than controlling that grape. So that's what we do. And that's why our expressions, and you mentioned a few, we don't do VS, VSOP, and XO. They're wonderful. There's no present with this,
Correct.
but we are going further, different type of percentage of alcohol. The Ambré cognac, we have 10% of grapes from Colomba, which is the historical grape of cognac. There's only 0.1% available. And I spent the 20 past years planting some of these grapes.
I'm pouring a little bit of. I'm gonna start with the ambre. I'm pouring a little bit of it because I want to be able to give people a taste note, and I'm gonna show this expression, the ombre. This is what the bottle looks like. Just beautiful, beautiful bottle. I have to say, I like the new design bottle,
Ah,
but
thank you.
je suis un peu romantique. The old design with a white top, I like more because it's more imposing. But this is more slick, more modern. But the older design of it, I was like, oh, I kind of like that big twisting top up. It was more French a little bit. That's how I felt. It's
But
much more.
Jack, let me tell you, I wanted to pay tribute. I'm getting older. I wanted to pay tribute to my team that's been by my side all these years. And when you see the hammer marks on this bottle,
Hmm.
we're the last company that still has pot stills. We built our own stills for distilling, and I have what we call le ouvrier du devoir. His name is Gaylor, and he built this still with a hammer and an anvil. And that bottle is a nod to him and his nephew working with him. And I live upstairs at the Chateau de Bonbonnet. Down the stairs, 5 yards, there's a shop, and this guy is knocking on pieces of copper. And that shape of a bottle is a nod to
Oh,
Gelo,
then
knocking on
well,
this.
then this
So
makes sense. It completely makes sense.
So
And
that's why you see these bumps. And if you come see our stills, you'll see all these bumps because he's doing on this, and he can spend 100. There's a still that was built in 1780 that was actually in Barbados. Gaylor spent 3,000 hours with a hammer and an anvil knocking on it until it was back into shape and was making a liquid again. So that's what I wanted to pay tribute with that bottle, obviously. And when you look at that label, you see it's a vine leaf. This is
Mhm,
the leaf of a Colombard grapes, which is the
mhm.
original grapes of cognac. So I know it's a bit geeky, but for us,
No, I love details because those details matter. They really do matter, and people may not find it so, but they matter because understanding why is literally the reason why we do this. Right? The why, because as a consumer, if I'm sitting on, I'm a keyboard warrior and saying, "Oh, I don't like how Maison Ferrand changed their spirit," and somebody say, "Oh, there is somebody that worked there that do this, and it's honor of them." That is much more appreciated and honorable because I never met an employee yet that would say, I don't want to be honored by my boss or the family I work for. I've never met one. So people is relatable. By comparison, for example, this is what I was talking about. This is the old bottle with the
yeah.
screw top, and but this is the new style. So if you go to the store and you see this, don't think it's not Ferrand. It's still Ferrand, but this is the new style
Yeah,
of
yeah.
of Ferrand. So let's talk about the expression. Like I said, I was mentioning that Alexandre here is a mad scientist. He doesn't believe in normally what you guys know on the market as XO, VSOP, and whatnot. He create expression that are authentic to for him. So tell me a little bit about the ombre.
The ambre is where the color, cognac, about 8-year-old starts to, the youngest is 6 years old. I got some 8 year, 12 year. This is where the cognac starts to pick up that beautiful color you're looking at right now. And so was called for this, but also, what I want to tell you, the story, what I want to tell you, I want to tell you like raisin, fresh grapes, dried apricot, a touch of honey. And that also is a very aromatic cognac because 10% of the grapes of these Colombard grapes, it is very hard to grow. Yeah, I get 30% less yield, but that's extremely perfumey. So if you put a drop, you can almost use it as a perfume. You can put a drop in a drink or on its own. You're going to have this beautiful, beautiful honey notes, and that is very delicate. Also, remember, it is grown on the soil of Grand Champagne, so that bed of chalk where the grapes has to go deep, get rid the minerals and the soil, so you get a great concentration. And so that's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you that vibrant aspect of cognac where you feel where it's made from. That beautiful, beautiful, delicate yet intense and layered aspect of a cognac. So that's the ombre. That's something that I like to show. I got two brothers, two sisters. That is the ombre and the 1840. So
Okay.
the 1840 is like the show off. The 1840 is 45% alcohol. It's aged in the dry cellar. It's in your face. It's got like strong, strong honey notes, and it's the cognac that you cannot kill. You can put ice on it and so on. The ombre is about the delicate one and the sophisticated.
I would definitely say also the delicate one. There's a certain a finesse about this cognac. It is light yet complex. And I love, like, first thing you get is not even honey, it's honeycomb. Like the comb of the honey itself. If you ever had raw, I tell you, if you ever had raw honey and you cut the honey with the comb and you chew on it, that waxiness that you get with the sweetness of the honey is what I get right here. Is beautiful. Like I don't like when a cognac is overwhelming, or almost a little too woody, or tastes almost fake sweet. But this, if you're a honey lover, you like tea with your honey, or a little bit of toast in the morning with butter and honey, it can't get any more fresh than this, right? And it's like a orange, it's honey and
Yeah,
orange marmalade.
you're right. You got a
Voici
good
comme
palate.
la confiture, right? Like
Ouais,
la confiture
ouais.
d'orange et juste un peu de miel, like a little bit of honey and a little bit of raw honey, orange zest, and it's so c'est envoûtant. It's mesmerizing.
Well, thank
That's
you,
that's
Jack.
what it is.
Thank you, thank you. A big, big tribute. This is many years, and I was trained by one of the best master blender, and I've learned a lot of these techniques to achieve such a thing. And but one of the thing is there's no shortcut. You gotta grow your grapes. You gotta do every aspect.
I'm telling you, I would not even want to touch this with anything. I don't want ice. I don't want anything. And cognac, I feel like people drive on to usually during more, colder season. It's hard for me to find a cognac that have more of a warmer season cognac. But this is so fresh and so delicate. I can have in the middle of summer and I'll be
Yeah,
fine. Yeah.
it's exactly how we want to make it. You nailed it. And if you would have looked at like I said, the brother to this one, the 1840 is a cognac that I designed for my grandmother. Where thinking about her, because my grandmother every evening, Jack, would finish the day. I grew up on a farm, a wine farm, and she would pour herself. And she was like me, not very good at sleeping, so she would read it to me all night, And that's why I'm still, a bit not good at sleeping and reading and writing books about what I do during the day. And so, that's inspiring for me next morning. And she would put a big ice cube in a big snifter and sip on it all night. But what happens? I have a secret for you. You perceive the molecules of taste differently depending on their concentration. You see what I'm saying, Jack? So
Yep.
when people say I'm using a little bit of water, that's the 1840 you're referring
1940.
to me.
Yep. That's
Thank you,
that's the
thank you.
that is the
So
brother. That's the brother of the ombre.
that's the brother. So that's the one where actually, like the ombre is drinking exactly the way you suggested. You nailed it right on the head. The 1840 would be like super concentrated. Bourbon drinker would get it right away. But my grandmother, if she were alive, would put a big ice cube in it and let it melt and have a sip every time. Why? Because not crushed ice. You don't want to water it down. You
Correct.
just want to progressively dilute it. And your body, it is going to trigger different flavor elements. Sometimes you see like a single malt guy, single guts, single malt snob like my age, imagine going to a bar, say, give me that malt and a little bit of water, fresh water, and they're going to add a little bit of water. Actually, what they do, they think they're opening up the spirit. It's a very classic way of drinking it,
Hmm.
and it's true with a great cognac with has a higher proof like the 1840. You are not going to open it up. You're going to uncover, like you're flipping the pages of a book, different pages of that book. That's what you do with a great spirit when you slightly water it down. So that's what and she did it that way. That was very 19th century way to do it, and that's
I still add water to my whiskey. So there, for me, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of water
yeah.
in your whiskey or a little bit of water in your spirit. Anything over 46 for me should definitely be discovered with a little more water as you have it. And I'm saying this with love to all the cognac drinkers. Cognac has never been a shooting spirit. It is a conversational spirit.
Very much
Tell
so.
people, the culture of cognac is long pour, long conversations. That's how it should be. And I love that you're not you refuse to fit the mold. And I think that's why I'm gonna describe Ferrand to people. Now people say, well, what is Ferrand? I say they're the renegade of of the cognac, right? Cognac, but try Ferrand because they're that child that know all the answers in class but does not do anything the teachers say. So you are the renegade of cognac, and I'm loving the fact that I can have a cognac that I don't have to explain to someone very old pal and anything else. I'm like, no, let's talk about structure. Let's talk about aging. Let's talk about the grape of what make good cognac. Let's talk about your latest project, right? Which for me was came out almost also very interesting. Uh, this project here.
I love that baby.
I, again, first, honestly, before I spoke to you, I didn't know what you're doing. Speaking to you now, I kind of have an idea of what is happening here because I promise you, I saw the bottle and I say, literally, I went, ce gars est tellement bizarre. Pourquoi? Because for me, you make it for the average cognac drinker, and I hope I post this later for people to understand that you choose to really go off the mold. Ferran as a brand don't want to fit in any category. Tell me about this crazy double cask, including PS cask. I don't even know what it was. I just looked at the box and I said, okay, here go Alexander again, going crazy on cognac. So I want to hear about it. Double
Well,
cask.
Jack, I researched it all night. In the Maison Ferrand you got to come to the ancestral home.
Oh, I
We have
am coming. I am coming
we
to
have
Maison Ferrand.
archives. We have archive. We just opened it because Mademoiselle, remember my godmother and Cognac, my godmother passed 5 years ago, and she passed on the baton to me. So think about a house that's been around for hundreds of years, and she didn't change anything for 100 years, including the archives of the family. So I'm reading all these documents about the way they used to make cognac, and I'm discovering. Remember, in the old days, you didn't throw anything away, right? You reused stuff. So they were reusing wine barrels. So I have a friend who's a winemaker in Pauillac. and he's working at a very famous chateau, Chateau Latour. And I say, can I have some of your barrels? And I put a little bit, I put cognac into these fresh barrels that had that bit. Why? Not because I'm crazy, maybe I'm crazy, but because people have done it for hundreds of years. And I'm like, I want to revisit this, man. When people had time and they didn't want just new barrels. And and I heard that there used to be swaps of barrels where people were using Pedro Jimenez barrels in cognac in port barrels. And I'm like, in cognac, by the way, finishing is illegal because we don't like that. It's a short time.
Mm-hmm.
Cognac is about time. Finishing is usually a short period before bottling. So
Mm-hmm.
this is double aged, at least a year, but usually 2 or 3 years in a PX, Pedro Jimenez wine barrel. So it's got that, and the idea is not to give it a taste of Pedro Jimenez. It's to bring forward the figs, the nice chocolate notes, the fruit notes of the cognac itself. In French, we call it the master blender who trained me. He called this la mise en valeur. You bring forward the elements that's there. So it's like somebody with a beautiful makeup. It's just to bring forward the feature. So here the PX barrel brings forward. It's not a finishing. It's a long secondary aging. Brought forward these fruits, very gourmand, flavors of the cognac itself. I love that one. There was a great discovery. I was reading stuff about this. I'm like, I'm so doing this. So it took me about 5 years to get it right. And when it was right, we made it, the double cask PX, Ferrand. And I'm so proud of it. I'm glad you picked it because you got this chocolate rich, very layered notes. And because we are a Grand Champagne cognac, that think about that cognac with the broad shoulders, then that can withstand this secondary aging and actually make the cognac shine. So that was my dream with making this. Some people call it the blue label. And you can see there's a guy on the box on the label. It's Eli the Eighth. That was
And
a
I'm gonna show it to
crazy
the folks right now.
creator that used to uh, guy, Mademoiselle, who's my cognac godmother, thought I'm the reincarnation of this guy. It's a great compliment, man. He was a bit wacky. That is true. He used to not have a horse but a zebra to put in front of a horse carriage, so a bit crazy. But he was doing deep research about cognac making. Yeah, I don't have a zebra, I promise. I'm just using old cars and tractors. But that was the guy, and we have a lot of archives from him, including barrels made of chestnuts and not just oak, which I'm studying and working on. That's the renegade barrel collection. But the double cask, I'm glad you picked that one because I love that lushness, that nice complexity, layering, and balance that we created with that one. So that's a nice baby.
Can I be corny and go sacre bleu? I think it's the corniest thing. People that don't speak French will always tell me sacre bleu. And I'm like, um, this this is my statement. I can give y'all a lot of the taste note, but I'm gonna say this. This is the cognac for people that always are bothering me about sherry cask. How you love sherry cask, just how you love all these things. This is the cognac for people that love those sherry cask. This is the cognac if you are a bourbon drinker. This is the cognac if you are a rye drinker. And this is the cognac if you definitely like those sherry cask single malt. This is your cognac. It is chewy. That's the quality of the eau de vie, obviously. But it is you. I don't know how you did this without the sherry taking over, because those honeycomb that are, I call the fabric of Ferrand, is still there, but it's more like a a perfect blend of it. Clearly, your experience is showing here. You are showing how good of a blender you are, because to create harmony between two things and my taste bud to be able to differentiate. the Ferrand fabric and the cask itself, that is huge. That is huge. And if you didn't even tell me about how you did it, I could have told. I could. My brain would be like, oh, is this finished? Was it finished in something? And what happened here? Because definitely coming from the ombre to the double cask, I know the fabric of what Ferrand should taste like, but this is opening a door to new consumers. If consider this not the blue label of cognacs, but the Macallan of cognacs. Is that standard of what you can impress your guest with at a very affordable price, by the way, that you can impress your guests. I bet if you take this and put this in a decanter and pour it to someone, they think you're pouring them $1,000 cognac. It's that complex. It's that nice. So great job.
Well,
Great
thank you, Jack. We I've been at it 36 years, and I've studied from the old master blenders, and that's my third book. I'm working on the art of the master blender because I got my daughter and my son. I want to do this job, and I'm saying, we're doing this for the next 100 years. We really are, and that's for sure.
correct.
And I want to pass that on, but it's something that I'm very proud of, and it's a teamwork. We have a team in the vineyards. We take care of the grapes, and that quality starts 15 years ago in a vineyard, and there's no way around this. It's not like you just order a bunch of something and put it through the still. That quality starts very early on, and that's why with Ferrand will always be limited in the quantity we produce, because with that requirements, having the vineyards and taking care of every steps, well, we the scale up is only very progressive, and that's what it is. So if people love beautiful things, and you've got a great palate, I got to tell you, for me, that's why I wake up in the morning, is to see your face when you drink it. That's why I wake up in the morning.
You talk a lot about family. You talk a lot about you know understanding that this is not just you. This is things you took on from others before you, and you're hoping to pass it on, right? I told you this, but this is the only thing I have left from the D generation or 10th generation. When I'm listening to you talk, you don't have to tell me, and this is the D10 generation. You don't have to tell me that the culture in cognac is about family. It's really about you
It's
know
true.
bringing things together. I would say my question is, do you believe that as I'm gonna pour this 10th generation, you honor, your mademoiselle with that 10th generation? How do you see the future of Maison Ferrand? Is it gonna be the wacky that we keep going? Would you allow, your daughter and your son to do this too, but also let them go wild and go crazy? Or would you want them to kind of carry your tradition on?
Well, I know exactly, I want them to be happy. And when the two reasons I wake up in the morning, this is intimate, but is to work with people I love. And I look at, the technical guys around me. I'm very lucky. I have attracted probably the best in the world. It's very true. The guys who are working with me, and it's like a rock band. You just got to have the best. I play the guitar or I do whatever you want to call it, but then you need to get a great drummer, and but you have a vision about what you make with your great spirit. And I know about 30 guys like me in other regions, and there's a vision. And then once you have the vision, then you have to pursue it, and you have to pursue it with somebody who shares them, the people who share that vision. And I would love to have my kids to pursue their own vision, and that's what they're working on. Because this is the way to do it. Yes, Mademoiselle thinks I'm I'm taking on and carrying the baton of her great grandfather, who's that, the guy who's his best friend or his friend was Gustave Eiffel, the guy that built the Eiffel Tower. So this is
Correct.
very iconic guy. So it's very humbling. And yet, I want them to carry on because cognac is alive. It's not stuck in its track. It's not about copying like Gioconda every single time. It's become making beautiful painting that you just can drink. And think about it. Why do we do this? It's for people to share beautiful moments with loved ones. And you need beautiful liquids to do this so you can talk about it. Remember, you say you don't shoot it, you sip it and you sip it again and you talk about it. And if you're French, you know how we love to rebuild the world around that cafe
Yes,
table, and put a bunch of French people, and we're all gonna fix all the problems in the world that night. And you want to do this with your great friends, and you need a great cognac to do this. That's what happens. And in fact, it's my secret. Just not only drink one, just take half a cognac, but in two, or a third of cognac in three glasses, and just do a little cognac safari that night. And you
right.
can do this with Maison Ferrand, as you just did.
And I tell you what, not for you to even say, but I would tell everyone the way I just went through this right now. You typically want to do it that. Find the ombre, find the double cast because that's fresh, new on the market now. You will find it, and if you can, I know that's a little pricey, but find D generation, the 10th generation. I promise you, I'm having it again. The last time I had it was 4 months ago in Africa, and I'm having it again. I'm like, I need to get another bottle of the D generation because it's that good. If you're a cigar lover, I promise you, the cognac of choice should be Ferrand. I promise you, because the especially you people that smoke robusto, you want that bright light spirit that marry the smoke, the pepperiness. You want that sweet honeycomb to kind of bring it down. So you don't have to take my word for it. I challenge you. I know a few people on Instagram are saying they're picking up a bottle of cognac. Uh, Two questions came through. The first one is um, an average batch that you're making of the release. About how many bottles are going out on the market? What's the average number of bottles that are out there?
Well, it depends, but for example, typically the 10 generations, when we make a batch, and as you know, we make about 2 or 3 batch a year because it's an ongoing blend. So when you make a blend, you do what we call the infinity vat. When you make your blend, you fine-tune your blend to perfection. When it's ready, you fill up a wooden vat. I use wooden vats that are 100 years old, and I put it in a wooden vat where there is one third of the previous blend, and then you reblend them together. It's called the infinity vat. So that way you have a seamless evolution. That's my master taught me how to do that. It's called the infinity vatting, and the cognac guys are, the old cognac guys do this. And you do that in cellars that are called cathedral cellars. So you have the vats are positioned at different height, so they feed one another by gravity. When I have a crack, when you come, I'll show you the cathedral cellar that was built in the 19th century, in the 1800s. So typically a batch would be, when we release one, about 25,000, 30,000 bottles. And then, as it runs out, the next batch is going to be ready to go on the market. We're not, cognac is Ferrand. Like I said, it's limited to just the grapes from the bullseye of the cognac region. So we'll never be very big. We'll always be the haute couture, doing a bit, for guys like you, Jack. You want to have
Right.
fun, and during something delicious, you can do the effort. Remember what you said, the introduction, it meant a lot to me. Yes, it's cultural. I fully agree on that cultural aspect. Cognac is very proud of. And also the fact that it's technical in, and if it's like, if you like music, or if you like painting, or if you like surfing, everything you like, if you get that little technical thing into it, then you get more pleasure out of it, right? Or
Right.
if you like single malt, or if you like bourbon.
And you go deeper. You try to go deeper. You try to explore more, and that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. As I'm having someone like you here, is the world of spirit is vast. Do not pigeonhole yourself into one place, because even Ferran, I've only had the first time I've tried Ferran. I've had only the 10th generation, and I'm like, what is happening here? I wonder what else this people are doing. And then I started trying other things from Ferrand. I'm like I said, you're a mad scientist. And I'm like, I have to talk to this person. Last year is when I wanted to have you on, and they say, oh, there was harvest time. You can't talk now. And I said, this year I came back and I said, I need to talk to Alexandre because I don't think enough people know what he's doing. They should know what he's doing. Right. So next question is mine is where can people find Ferrand as I actually display? So for all of you guys asking questions, maisonferrand.com is where you want to go. It shows the whole portfolio, including Planteray, Matilda, Gin, all of it is there. So you want to go there. If you haven't been there, make sure you go there first and you can actually get more information. But for the average consumer asking, like I have people following us or watching us from Scotland, from the United States, and other places. How is Ferrand distributed around? You may not know this because obviously you're a maker, not a seller,
I'm
but
the guy making,
you know.
but no, no. I am. It's funny because as much as I mean, I spend my time at production. I admit, but I love. I was in Slovakia yesterday, and I love to go out there and meet great bartenders and meet great consume people who love great stuff and do. I've done a bunch of master classes. To me, it's like a musician getting out of the studio kind of thing, right? And I
Right,
really like it. And so I see. I like to believe that, for example, the U.S. there's a lot of great quality stores. And there's always somebody in that store who knows spirits very well, something to be proud of. It's
right,
the same in the UK. So you always have these stores that are, and of course you can find on internet where the brand is available. It's
correct,
quite distributed in actually in 121 countries, but it's a thin layer. Like you have to go to these stores, but usually you'll find it in the key stores. I'm proud to say that the team, we're a family, the whole team. But the team that's out there, they're usually either winemakers or distillers that decide to go into sales, and we have about 20 of them in the US. They do master classes and they'll go out there and remember, we think knowledge is pleasure. So they share that love and knowledge about cognac. So every good store, I would think, at least knows they know Ferrand, I would think, and they would know how to get it, or they would have it. And yes, you have
and also if you are looking for it, ask your store because in America we have the three-tier system. And if,
exactly.
if you are pushing the store and say, hey, I want to have Ferrand, can I buy Ferrand from you? I know in America, one of the places, if you're in the US, Total Wine has it. And Total Wine is over 35 state already here. So if you go in Total Wine, guarantee you'll find Ferrand. I've seen a lot of website online where you can actually find Ferrand. In Scotland, I would definitely tell you go to your local store. If they don't have it, maybe that's your opportunity for them to ask the distribution. Hey, do you have Ferrand? I would love to have it in my store because I tell consumer all the time, you drive the market because you have that power. If you're knowing your store owner, your local store, they are knowing their distributor, which now is a good problem for Alexandre to have when people are calling him and say, we want Ferrand here. How can we get Ferrand here? That's a good problem for him to have. So
Thank you, Jack.
go to your local store, your local bar, and ask. Ask. I always tell people distribution is great to know where it's sold, but what is better is to go where it's not sold and ask to have it there. That you are given the opportunity for the brand to have one more place where that bottle is at. So, for all of you watching here on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube, I want to remind you go to your place. They don't have it, fine. They have, you see other cognac, as long as they have cognac, ask for Ferrand. Say, hey, I would love for you to have Ferrand here. That's what I drink, or that's what I want, which actually now forces them to start pushing their distribution to go, we want this here, which giving you more. I've worked in distribution for a while, so I always like to say we need more point of sale, right? We need more point of sale places. So it's a good problem for Alexandre to have if he's getting phone call or his team is getting phone call saying we need Ferrand here or we need Ferrand there. That's a good problem for y'all to have. So my two last questions that I'm gonna have for you. The first one is gonna be if you had a dream of people supporting what your family have built, what would that dream be? What would and sorry, this comment here come from Jake Fever, call himself the cognac king of America, and he haven't tried Ferrand. So shame on you, Jake, for not actually trying Ferrand. You are calling yourself the Cognac King. I challenge you. I challenge you, Jake. I'm challenging you now to go to your local store immediately and ask for this cognac, and you can come back and tell me what you think, because this is going to be my new introduction to cognac drinkers to say, you know cognac, but you have not met Alexandre, right? So that's what I'm going to start doing. But
Well,
what,
thank you, Jake, by the way. Thanks to Jake. I love the idea of being open-minded and try, and I hope you love it because
there's people on Instagram saying they're going to check their outlet right now and they're going to see if they can find it in their local store. And that's what we do this for. How can we, I always say consommateur lambda, right? How can we just in the world somewhere watching this interview, watching the recast of this interview, listen to the podcast, support your family dream? Is it
well,
buying a bottle? Is it
you
is
know,
it is it is it talking about it anywhere? Is it going everywhere and say, do you know Alexandre? Let me tell you about it. How do we do that? Right? Because that matters to me personally. As how can people around the world support that dream so your daughter, your son, and this continue the dream of mademoiselle, right?
well, it's exactly that, Jack. I tell you, the I like to think that Ferrand is not just a brand; it's a shared adventure. We work so hard. Every expression we do is hard technical work, and it's a lot of research because cognac's got so much to offer. And imagine, guys have been making it for 400 years. So if you take the trouble to say, okay, I'm doing this, but actually, what were they doing 150 years from now? And so imagine, I've been doing this for 36 years. I was trained by somebody who was just like that. So to me, I like to say to everybody hearing us that want to have that adventure. That's that adventure of cognac. That's just this different expression that we create because we're not VS, VSOP, XO, you're absolutely right, Jack. We create cognac that's a very specific expression. Yes, they all have that family trait, which is this little honeycomb, and you'll find it in 10 generation as well, and so on. But then, of course, we magnify it different ways. So really my dream is and luckily it's happened, and to have a community of lovers of good things that like to share things. Think about it, Jack. You see, the world is becoming a bit crazy. In France, we haven't had a government, it's changing you probably have seen every 3 months or so on. But there's a way to fix all of this. There's a way to fix all this madness. Just go and share a good cognac with your friends. I was reading this study, and it's like people say there's not 1 out of 8 people say they have no friends. I'm like, just open a good bottle of cognac. You'll make friends.
You will. I tell people all the time. I say, no matter where you are, who you love, the language you speak, or whatever you praise every morning as your most high, one thing that will bring us together is a glass.
Absolutely.
I've been
Absolutely.
I've been to places in the world where I did not speak the language. I did not know anyone there. I walk to the place and I go, Scotch, neat. The person next to me say, Scotch. And I'm like, yes, Scotch. But it was that one connection. And
Yeah.
you were absolutely right.
So for me, that's my dream, to share. And I think it's, luckily we have wonderful people who hop on. I say to people, hop on, share that adventure. And as you know, I've created like a very artisanal gin using our own cognac pot stills,
Hmm.
for example.
Hmm.
So it's called Citadel. And so that's part of the adventure to show you like incredible know-how in another register. And then you mentioned about Planteray, rum, where, the country that invented rum, Barbados, so I'm using, the cognac barrels for the rum. So it's that adventure that, cognac is the king of spirits or the queen of spirits. And so if you really want to understand a lot of this and you're willing to open your mind to delicious, very expressive cognacs, yeah, hop on. We'd love to have you on and we'd love to share with you. And you know what's my dream? Is you all come and visit us.
Oh,
We're a family
I'm
operation.
coming. 2026. I'm in Cognac. I am coming. Now that understanding Grand Champagne, understanding the first. You guys are the first. You always put it on your bottle, and I never understood. I had to look it up, even though I would say I know about cognac. Every time, le premier
Yeah, premier cru
cru,
de cognac.
cru de cognac, right? The first cru de cognac. It's always on every on your bottle. I'm gonna say I have to come. I have to see this and understand what exactly it's happening. I love the story through the spirit, but I think that story will be completed for me when I land in Cognac and walk through the vineyard and walk through the cave and walk through those places. My last question for you to close this interview is: we learn about your family, we learn about what you've accomplished, we've learned about expressions of Ferrand. I hope you have you back to talk about Planteray, because I feel like I don't want to mix families. Today we're here for cognac, but I want to talk about rum in the future when we get into rum month. But for the last question is for people that jump on that adventure, for people that love Ferran, what should they look forward to for the next year, 2 years? What is Alexandre? And you don't have to tell us all, but what is Alexandre is keeping? I've heard a lot about. I'm reading some studies. I'm finishing a book right now. But what should we look forward to? Right? You just cater with a double cask. What should we? What are we? What should the future look like for us, Quran lovers?
So I'm going to blow your mind on this, I hope. We have this small collection called the Renegade Barrel. And the Renegade Barrel, it's interesting because it's actually getting inspired by what cognac guys were doing in the past that were forgotten. And I've discovered that actually the British aristocracy, they were super in the 16, 17, 1800s. They were fanatic about cognac. And so even though, as you know, the British and the French have been like two brothers or two sisters, always at each other's throughout history, right? You know that, and yet, we showed respect for one another, and cognac was one of the thing. And so the British gentry throughout the world liked to have their cognac 2 year old, and it was called early landed, and age them where they lived. So a lot was aged by the Thames. You will see cognac early landed expressions. There's still a couple of brands doing it. And I was thinking, wow, would be interesting since we have a distillery in Barbados. I look at it as a marriage with two teams. About 10 years ago, I said, I'm going to put 30 barrels of beautiful cognac and put it in our aging cellar in Barbados, Brighton Beach, in a cellar to see what somebody who would have had their cognac 150 years ago and aged it there and see what happens. Now, it's still legal by the AOC as long as every drop is recorded by French government every year. Remember, you cannot, it's very, very strict. And I did it, and it's finished. It's being launched now. There's few bottles out there, so it's a very limited edition, but it's to showcase. So it's really, let me describe it for you. It's got that honey nose, the beautifulness you're talking about Ferrand Cognac, but it's got that the exotic aging gives it like what in chemistry we'd say make longer ester molecules. So you got this exotic fruit notes that blend with these nice grape fruit notes from the cognac. And you understand why people did it 100, 150 years ago. And so people may argue and say, he's crazy, he's doing this. This is actually was done for hundreds of years, and it is still part of the possibility. We're very transparent. We made a few bottles. I love to push these limits, Jack. And when people have done it for over 100 years, year in, year out, I want to try it. And and it's like when using barrels made of chestnuts. Thank God I have friends who still know how to make their barrels. They're incredible hard to do. And in that case, I have to call it eau de vie de vin. That was the Renegade barrel number 2. But in 1983, which is yesterday, it was actually out of the regulation. So I fully respect the regulation as it is. I wanted to evolve and include it back because think about it, for hundreds of years, people did it. And so again, remember we've said, Jack, it's an adventure. And so if you like that adventure of flavors, of incredible spirits, I think I was put on this planet to do this. I know now, I'm being an older guy, and I love to share with people like you, Jack, and the listeners, hopefully. And so hop on, and I'd love go grab a bottle of Ferrand and do what Jack is doing. Have a little safari, tasting them side by side. You have a perfect glass to do it, either the Glencairn or the tulip-shaped glass to do it. Or if you take the 1840, put a big ice cube and think about my grandmother and have a little sip every minute. The cognac highball was called Finalo, and you have the Mizunari in Japan with whiskey or cognac or whiskey highball. And actually, the first highball was a cognac highball that was called Finalo. Where they were using, instead of doing just flat water, they'd use a little fizzy water with the orange skin, and they've done it for hundreds of years. So cognac is universal that way, and that's my wish. Thank you for the question. You're gonna have with us, with Maison Ferrand and the team, it's an adventure, and I love to share it with our fans. So really, this is something that, God willing, we're going to be doing. I've been doing this 36 years, hopefully another 36.
You know what? Tell you what. I love that you came here. I feel like you and I can sit down and talk all day. I tell people I used to travel for food. Then I got older and I travel for sceneries and experiences, and now I travel for spirits. Right? I want to see how it's made, the story behind. I cannot wait personally to come to Cognac, spend some time, see what is happening there. But for the average consumer, especially if you're a cognac drinker, I will tell you this: the cognac word is vast, more vast than you think. But to find a maison or a chateau that is making something that gets your mind thinking, that is not a bought product that is put behind a big name, and that Alexandre got, Alexandre built his CV or his resume brick by brick, 30 some years of doing this. He did not go to a home and go, hey, sell me your cognac and I'll put it in a bottle, make it fancy and that. His objective have never been to give you a product that is fancy, but that has history, quality, and actually make your brain enjoy and think about a product. And to have that level of integrity and that level of passion to bring a product to market deserve support, and at least deserve a level of curiosity. Because at the end of the day, if you're not even a cognac drinker, I challenge you to be curious, a little bit curious. Either you're, you know, bourbon drinker, if you're in America, you're a Scotch drinker in Scotland, or you're just a whiskey drinker in general. Some days those whiskeys are too much. Take a moment, have a seat, relax, and pour yourself a bottle of cognac, hopefully Ferrand, and see how your perspective of it change. I feel like it started well with being pushed around the commercial way of America, but I believe we are all it's been here long enough for us to truly explore the ins and the out of what else is happening in cognac. It's not just VSOP, SOP, I'm drinking only XO. No, what else is happening? The same way you want to know what this bourbon producer is doing, what this rye producer is doing, I think you should do the same thing in cognac. And just like I say, people like Jake that actually have all the cognac in the world, all the Hennessy's and all this. I've seen his collection, huge. You still need to explore. So, Alexandre, I'm going to say it in our native language is merci. Merci du fond du cœur. You know, thank you so much for being here. This has been my honor to have you on. This has been my pleasure just to talk to you. I feel like I can talk to you every day because of the passion and the true honesty that you bring to cognac, to the spirit. I hope to have you back so we can talk a little bit more about Planteray, your adventure in there. I know that's a brand that also have a long history in the spirit industry. A lot of bartenders are like a fan of that. So your work You know, in this world, it's been noticed. If no one told you that lately, we are noticing what you're doing, and we hope you keep doing this, and we hope your daughter and your son keep doing this, so we can have you. So thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. His name is Alexandre Gabriel. If you never heard of him, please Google him. There's enough article about him for you to know. My name is Jack Bigadoo. I'm also known as the Hood Sommelier, and I hope you come back for more episode, and we'll see on